texted me. Will do. And the recording has started.
Thank you, Jason. I guess we'll go ahead. All right. At this time, I'd like to call the Illinois Liquor Control Commission to order. Let the record reflect it is Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 at 1 p.m. As a preliminary matter, this is Chairman Cynthia Berg speaking. Before we get started, I would ask that everyone joining us please be patient and respectful as we navigate this meeting remotely for the last time. At this time, allow me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Commissioner Melody Span Cooper.
Present.
Commissioner Tom Gibbons.
Here.
Commissioner Julietta LaMalfa is absent. Commissioner Don O'Connell.
Present.
Commissioner Stephen Powell.
Present.
Commissioner Polito Sanchez.
Present.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lisa McLeod.
Present.
Rick Haymaker.
Here.
Dushanka Marjan.
Present.
Argyris.
Present.
Michelle Flagg.
Present.
Les Peterson.
Present.
Tom Schlenhart. Still on the way. Jason Youngberg.
Present.
Lavaris Jeffries. Persis Stonker.
Present.
Are there any other staff members participating in the meeting today? All right, good day, everyone. I thank you in advance for your patience and cooperation through today's meeting, which is being convened remotely via WebEx events. Back in March 9th, 2020, April 1st, April 30th, May 29th, June 26th, July 24th, August 21st, September 18th, October 16th, November 13th, December 11th, and January 8th, 2021, March 5th, 2021, Governor Pritzker issued disaster proclamations for the entire state of Illinois regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Normally, the Illinois Liquor Control Commission would hold their meetings in James R. Thompson Center in Chicago. However, on March 13th, 2020, Governor Pritzker issued Executive Order 2020-04, reissued by Executive Order 2020-06, which closed the James R. Thompson Center to members of the public. This open meeting of the Illinois Liquor Control Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Public Act 101-0640 and Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2021-07, issued on March 5th, 2021, which is reissued Executive Order 2020-07 from March 16th, 2020, which suspended the Open Meetings Act provisions relating to in-person attendance by members of a public body. The Open Meetings Act requires public bodies to allow for public comment according to the rules of the public body. This meeting will feature public comment. Members of the public interested in commenting at this meeting were asked to provide their comment in writing via email by 5 p.m. yesterday. Pursuant to section 100.410 F of the Administrative Rules governing the ILCC, those who wish to speak during public comment were asked to pre-register via email by 1 p.m. yesterday. Those individuals will be called upon and granted permission to speak during the public comment portion of this meeting. Those individuals who pre-registered, please ensure that the information you registered matches your WebEx registration information. Please note that this meeting is being recorded as well as transcribed by a court reporter and that attendees are participating by web audio conference. The agenda for this meeting has been posted on the website. We recommend the members and the public follow the agenda as posted. Before turning to the first item, allow me to cover ground rules. I, Chair Berg, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold your comments until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes and to assist the court reporter. For any response or comment on any item, please wait till the chair yields the floor to you and always state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via a roll call vote. Item number 1, Secretary Argyris, please call the roll.
Commissioner Span Cooper,
Here.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Here.
Okay. Commissioner LaMalfa is absent today. Commissioner O'Connell,
Present.
Commissioner Powell,
Present.
and Commissioner Polito Sanchez.
Present.
Chair Berg present. All board members are present. Item number 2, do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of the board meeting held on May 12th, 2021?
Commissioner Powell moves.
Madam Chairman, I have a question about the minutes.
Did you email us prior to that, or is
No, I did not.
well, they've been moved. What is it that's in question?
I just wondered, when we went into executive session, we considered an appeal, and I don't have that in front of me right now. And I think we made a decision on that and reported it back to the meeting, but it doesn't say anything about that. All it says is that we consider, and I may be wrong, but I think we did come up with a recommendation.
Well, typically we want to let somebody know before we have a motion on the table to approve them.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Powell. I'll remove my motion. And if we have to continue the minutes to the next meeting so we have clarification, that's fine.
Okay. So we'll have a motion to delay the minutes approval until the next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
That's been probably moved and seconded. Secretary Argyris, please call the roll.
Commissioner Span Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
Commissioner Polito Sanchez,
Yes.
sorry, Commissioner Polito Sanchez,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 3, receive Executive Director McLeod's report.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Executive Director Lisa McLeod here with my Executive Director report. As far as operations go, the ILCC build out is continuing to go smoothly. There have been no identified issues. We are currently on target for a mid-July move-in date. And our plan is to open to the public on August 1st, 2021. We have identified and offered the general counsel position to Attorney Noah Quambeck. He has accepted the GC position, and he currently has a July 1st, 2021 start date. Attorney Quambeck comes to us from the City of Chicago Law Department, from Business Affairs Consumer Protection, where he has litigated numerous cases, including liquor cases. We have posted the licensing assistant position. It is currently posted. We are accepting applications for that position through the end of the month. That is going to bring our total of licensing assistants to 4. We are currently We have not posted the Cook County Liquor Control Supervisor position as of yet. We will be posting that soon. We're currently resolving issues with CMS regarding the job description. The goal is to get that posted within the next week or two. As it relates to licensing assistants, currently they are back in the office 1 day a week. The plan is for them to be back in the office full-time, 5 days a week on August 1st, so that they can handle the public, since the office will be open to the public on that date. All other employees will be back on August 1st on a hybrid schedule of 2 to 3 days a week. Although the long-term plan is to have everyone back in the office full-time by the end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter. After the last legislative session, which legal will go in more detail, there were some bill passages that will directly impact the ILCC, specifically as it relates to the delinquency list, the wine and spirits delinquency list. It's now going to be our responsibility to maintain said list. Jason Youngbird, our IT manager, he is currently exploring options for developing or procuring the necessary software for us to do so. Pursuant to the statute, which has not been signed yet, our responsibility to maintain the delinquency list will begin on January 1st of 2022. While our IT manager is looking for options, software options for that list, that also includes the developer of the current delinquency list, which is being maintained currently by the wine and spirits distributors. So hopefully if that pans out, that'd be great, but if not, that'll at least also give us some framework of what we need. Our assumption of the delinquency list, this is, a positive move for the ILCC because it exasperates our need for a gen tax replacement, which is something that has been identified for a while. So we are moving forward with requesting RFIs or requests for information, so that we can move forward with a formal request for production RFP. The RFP process, it can be lengthy, but because we have a firm statutory deadline, this is creating some urgency so that it is going to allow us to find a long-term solution replacement for gen tax, because the delinquency list that we now are responsible for is going to tie directly into that system. We are moving forward with the audit, the compliance audit with the Illinois Audit General as well as Adelphia. That audit has began. We have met our first deadline. And again, this is our first audit as a standalone agency, and which is a positive thing as it allows us to ensure that we are compliant with the requisite terms of the Illinois Audit Act. And that concludes my executive director report.
All right, any questions or comments from the board at this time? I would just like to thank Lisa myself for extending that statutory deadline. I know it was effective immediately in the bill, and we've got extension until January, so thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Item number 4, receive COVID-19 directives.
With regard to the COVID-19 directives, as of June 11th, 2021, we are in phase 5. As such, there are no capacity restrictions. The state does not require face coverings by employees or patrons who are fully vaccinated. However, businesses and municipalities, they can continue to require additional restrictions or requirements as they deem appropriate. As it relates to Illinois, if you are indoors and you're not fully vaccinated, Unvaccinated people should continue to wear face coverings and maintain a 6 feet distance. If you are fully vaccinated, there are no such requirements. There are also no requirements if outdoor, although it is, again, reminded that if you're not vaccinated, you should still continue to maintain a social distance of 6 feet.
All right, any comments or questions on the COVID-19 Phase 5 from the board? It appears there are none. Moving on to item 5, the division reports. We'll begin with licensing with Dushanka Merjan.
Good afternoon, Chair Burke, Commissioners, and Director McLeod. I have several updates for you in reference to the licensing division. Wanted to touch base on the license renewal extensions. All license renewals have been extended until December 31st of 2021. This action will supersede the Commission's prior license extension action, which was through 6/30 of 2021. This gives our licensees a little more time to renew their state liquor licenses due to the hardships on our license holders as a result of the COVID-19 mitigation actions. This past Friday, June 11th, we sent out an email to all of our licensees informing them of the renewal extensions. So our licensees have been informed of these new extensions. Wanted to provide also an update on some system enhancements that we have. I know I've talked in prior meetings about the online brand registration enhancements that we were looking to implement, and I have some great news. In May, actually, we were able to implement the changes to the brand registration enhancements. We've gotten some great feedback. This will streamline the process for our licensees as well as the staff. So that was great news. We were able to implement that. Another item, which is great news as well, is special events. As you can imagine, we've seen an influx of special events coming in since now that we are in phase 5, but even when we were at the bridge to phase 5, we noticed an increase in the number of special events that we were receiving and processing. Just from April to May, we had an 83% increase. We are reallocating our resources to ensure that we are able to review and process these special events in a timely manner, and we continue to receive them. So you will see these numbers continue to grow as we are in our very busy special event season. A quick update on our Gentex V12 version upgrade project. We are on schedule with the first phase of testing. We have a lot of the scenarios and a lot of the testing is related to licensing and our enforcement division. So there's quite a bit that we have to test in this first phase, and we are on schedule in reference to that. And that concludes my division report today, Chair and Commissioners. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them for you.
Thank you, Dushanka. Does any board member have any questions or comments for Dushanka? It would appear there are none at this time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. I see Les is already on. Enforcement, Mr. Chief Les Peterson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. For the enforcement division report, under accomplishments, you'll see that the enforcement staff is providing education and resources to businesses that remained open during the COVID-19 disaster proclamation. We focused on maintaining the phase 4 standard as well as the bridge to 5 where we're at now. We continued to work with the local liquor commissioners, the health departments, law enforcement to spearhead the enforcement of the statewide phase 4 and the bridge to 5. And as Dushanka mentioned, we're continuing to test on the Gentex version 12. Under inspections, we have conducted 981 inspections and found 277 violations in May. Additionally, 91 warnings were issued during new license inspections and COVID-related complaints. On the complaint side, you see that during the month of May, we received 81 complaints, which is a 51% decrease from the previous month. These complaints came online, submission form, emails, phone calls, in-person information during routine inspections, and of course, complaint investigations. Of those complaints, 2 were related to potential phase 4. That accounts for a 71% decrease over the previous month. 0 phase 4 violations or warnings were issued, which is a good thing. The underage compliance assistance category, the UCA, we continue to concentrate on cases that are the sale and delivery of alcohol via online portals that provide no safeguards to prevent delivery of minors. It's been a very successful. Zoll has stepped up his efforts tremendously, and we're having some very good success with that. Also, if you would take a look, we have the UCA job posting. It's a continuous posting, but we are ramping this up. So if anybody has potential candidates for that, please have them go to work.illinois.gov, select job postings, and then search for the underage compliance assistant is what they're called. And we are actively going to be recruiting for those people through human resources. We are continuing to do the UAC details right now with local police departments, but we are going to be picking this up a little bit once we have a few more people that we can select from the candidates that we received from workillinois.gov. The online marketplace sales, as I said, we're monitoring the increase in secondary marketing. The most common online marketing where illegal alcohol sales are posted are Craigslist, OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace. The Enforcement Division is continuously searching for these sales and effect for the removal. These are, I think, some really good numbers, but for the month of May, the Enforcement Department has reported for removal 458 posts from Craigslist, 12 posts from Facebook Marketplace, and 41 posts from OfferUp. I think that's significant, and each one of those posts is a potential minor receiving alcohol improperly. So I think that's a significant increase for us. On the notable investigations I will include more as our manpower comes up, just to keep you appraised of what's going on in the field. On the COVID-19, I think I'm pleased to conclude the report by saying that I might be removing this section from the COVID-19 response section of the monthly enforcement report due to the drastic reduction of the COVID-related complaints. So phase 5, I think, is running smoothly. I think that hopefully by next month we will have 0 complaints in that category. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Does any board member have any questions or comments for him?
I do, Madam Chair. The illegal posts that you're talking about, are these licensees that are posting?
No, negative. They are, this is just random posts, people that, I mean, quite frankly, it could be anybody. It could be just someone that just got a good deal at a local store and just simply post it, because some of these alcohol can be marked up to like 1,000% by selling it to minors. And so that's what it is. It's illegal alcohol in some form or another. It could be bootlegged. It could be, there's a number of different things. But if you just Google, just look up in any one of these, you'll see alcohol come up. It's very common.
Thank you. Sounds like you're doing a good job on identifying and getting them unposted.
And yes, and we're getting a great response from these, from Facebook and from mainly Craigslist. They've been very, very cooperative as far as getting these posts removed is extremely fast.
I agree. This is Commissioner Polito Sanchez. I agree with Commissioner O'Connell. You're being very creative and you're on it, because I've heard a lot about Facebook Marketplace and just the level of activity going on. So good for you. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for last Thank you so much. We're trying to send some help for our enforcement division to you, Les, with very complex situations going on in our enforcement division statewide. Thank you very much.
Thanks, BDU.
Industry education, Miss Michelle Flagg.
Good afternoon. Update. Some of these have taken place recently that I'm sharing, so they're not in my report, but our COVID-19 related directives and FAQs, those are all on the website, and notifying the public that we're currently in phase 5 and the links regarding that there's no longer capacity limits, etc. So all of that information is on our website, and IT was very instrumental in making sure that the licensees received that notice on June 11th regarding the extension of license renewals. Let's see. Another key item, Lee Rupus, our Bassett manager, he was able to provide training to enforcement staff on Bassett. And in October, we'll have a human trafficking training, and that's with regards to the, you may or may not know, but the Human Trafficking Resource Center Notice Act requires on-premise licensees and other establishments to post a notice regarding informing the public and victims of human trafficking of hotline numbers, etc. And so this training will go into a little more detail, the audience being Bassett licensees and trainers. Prevention campaigns. May, we had, during May, there was National Prevention Week. October, we'll have the College Town Summit and Red Ribbon Week. And then December, National Impaired Driving Prevention Month. And I think that concludes my report with regards to industry education. With regards to diversity and inclusion initiatives, Hispanic Heritage Month will be in September, and there are no further updates on diversity and inclusion.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Does any board member have any questions or comments for Ms. Flagg regarding education and diversity and inclusion? It would appear there are no further comments for you. Thank you, Michelle. Moving on to legal, Rick Haymaker is going to take this.
Good afternoon, everybody. Rick Haymaker. You get to see me today. Sorry for the dangling headphones, but people seem to hear me better when I wear these things. Two very significant announcements for the legal division this month. First and foremost is the fact that Avi Zizuk is a new father, just as of a couple days ago. So we send him our best congratulations and good luck. He's the father of a new son. I cannot give him any advice on that. Since I have two daughters, I would have nothing to tell him, but he seems to be in capable hands. So he will, from a professional standpoint, he'll be out on parental leave. So if you have any questions, any legal issues, feel free to reach out to me. And the second big announcement, of course, is what Director McLeod has said about the general counsel position and the hiring of Noel Quambeck. I am personally extremely excited about that. I've known Noel for a long time. I worked with him a long time ago when we were at the city, and I think we're gonna make a very good team when he gets here. So I think I want to thank Director McLeod for her involvement in getting him here. I think it's going to work out very well. On to the nuts and bolts of the division. We have 89 open legal cases. 21 of which are manufacturer distributor related cases, 55 are retail related cases, 8 of which are sale of alcohol to minor cases. I know the commission is interested in those. Out of those 8 open cases, there are 2 that are third-time offenses. So it would be my suggestion to get those before the commissioners, hopefully within the next month or 2. I know there are some hearing dates coming up, so maybe we can coordinate that to get those SAM cases handled. We resolved and closed 37 cases in the month of May. As to appeals, there are 20 open appeal cases, 2 of which will be deliberated by you today. There are 3 petitions for rehearing also to be considered today. We sent out 4 decisions last month. And then we have a couple status calls coming up for the month of July and August as usual, and a couple hearings that are set for the 29th of July and the September 21st, 21st of September. So hopefully we're looking, especially with the addition of the new general counsel, looking to take care of that backlog. And also for some de novo cases, to have in-person hearings for those. We have received, as of yesterday, a complaint and summons for the Cruisen's West Peoria decision that the commission made. So we have requested representation by the Attorney General to handle that case, that appeal in front of the Peoria County Circuit Court. It was just filed a few days ago, so it's very early on. The Lebamoff case, there is some news to report there. A trial date has been set for the week of September 20th, and likely to go on for that entire week. So at least we have a calendar, we have a date on the calendar for that case. So we're looking to see what the district court decides in that matter. We've responded to 5 advisory opinion requests. We have reviewed special events for capacity limitations and plans of operation. I'm very grateful not to have to do that anymore as we have returned to phase 5 and we get back to not having to worry about how many people are at a special event. And finally, we responded to 5 FOIA requests last month. I'm going to have to figure out how to continue answering those FOIA requests while Avi is on leave. That does it for our report this month. If you have any questions, please feel free to jump in.
Does any board member care to comment or have questions for Rick regarding these items just recently discussed? All right, moving on, item number 6. Rick, will we receive a legislative summary from House Bill 2620 and many others?
Okay, I'm back on for this. You know, there really is just 2 primary pieces of legislation. All the various 14 to 16 bills that were filed for the spring session were either merged in with these 2 pieces of legislation or expired without any action being taken. So let's start with what is now Public Act 102-0008. So the 8th piece of legislation that was enacted into law for the entire session. It was previously Senate Bill 104. It passed 104, and HB 4078. It passed both houses on May 30th and was signed by the governor on June 2nd. This dealt primarily with 4 different issues. It expanded the cocktails to go law until January 3rd, 2024. It had previously expired on June 2nd, 2021. It expanded the cocktails to go provisions to include a single serving of wine and also any beverage in a container sealed by the manufacturer. Third, it authorized the retailer to use a credit card in their purchases from distributors. And fourth, which made a lot of news at the time, permits a licensed retailer to give away a free alcoholic liquor drink between the dates of June 10th and July 10th of this summer, as long as that person presents their vaccination card. So it was the intention of the legislature to encourage people to become vaccinated, and in doing so, retailers are permitted to give away free drinks, or one free drink, if they are able to prove full vaccination. So that is Public Act 102-0008. We can take questions on that if you have any.
I do. This is Commissioner Polito Sanchez on that June 10th, July 10th. What's been the feedback so far? What's been the giveaway so far? I mean, how many vaccinations have happened?
We don't have those numbers. What we were in charge of doing was, in the legislation, to provide any further guidance that we could related to, the regulatory side of giving away free drinks. Typically it's not something we're too excited about, but we understand the public policy reasons for it in this case. With that, we published a bulletin that helped define, the legislation does this, but we, in addition, defined that the drinks can't be given away outside a current time window, which is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. The drinks can't be of a very significant size, so there are drink size limitations. We also made it clear that this initiative is voluntary on the part of retailers, that retailers do not have to do this if they choose not to. So, some retailers maybe can handle it better than others, but I imagine some retailers, after they're coming out of a very difficult time, are not too excited about giving away free, expensive alcohol. So we made clear that it is a voluntary program.
Yeah, and I was just trying to gauge enthusiasm. Do you have an idea why it's just for a 1-month duration?
I think, the idea is I don't know specifically. I can only speculate that the idea is to get people through the doors, the vaccination doors, and to get vaccinated ASAP, and then without creating a culture of drinking for no charge.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Sure. Any other questions on the Public Act we just mentioned? If not, we will move to the very significant piece of legislation, House Bill 2026, that dealt with various issues, and it combined many different pieces of legislation and proposals that had been proposed earlier on in the spring session. So as we went through those bills in the past, I explained that some had kind of hit a wall and they were left in committee and didn't seem to be moving. But what we also said was it doesn't necessarily mean that the substance in those bills are dead. They were always continually negotiated, and of course ended up in another piece of legislation that really just hit, and we were notified of it May 30th, or maybe May 29th, one of the last days of the session. So what I'm going to do here, I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible, but also be as thorough as possible. And I want to go through it a little differently and explain the impact on the different industries. So let's start with beer. The beer impact that this bill has, it relates to the craft brewer legislation that was proposed a while back as part of Senate Bill 532, House Bill 3495, Senate Bill 2035, and Senate Bill 2020. It creates a Class 3 brewer license. So we currently have a Class 1 license, a Class 2 brewer license. This creates a Class 3 brewer license. And what it does is very unique in that it allows the Class 3 brewer to manufacture beer in a limited amount, to have full retailing privileges, and to also distribute beer in a very limited amount. The legislation creates what's called a beer show permit. So a Class 3 brewer and a distributor are able to transfer a portion of their inventory to a location that's licensed by the commission as a beer show location and sell beer at those. It's like an event type license for beer only. The legislation also creates crossovers. What I mean by a crossover is for a craft brewer to be able to also be a craft winery or a craft distiller and still retain its craft privileges. The way the law read in the past, that if you did that crossover manufacturing, you could do it, but you would lose your craft privileges. This allows that to happen. It expands also the ability of a brewer to sell mead at retail, and it allows a brewer to sell from and deliver at its own curbside. So not just within the facility itself, but for curbside pickup. It, in addition, increases the license fees for out-of-state brewers, out-of-state manufacturers who self-distribute. And it also requires craft brewers to submit annual production reports to the ILCC and the Department of Revenue. Any questions? I'm going to go through 4 other impacts, but before we leave beer, any other questions on that?
Okay. Yes,
Sure, Commissioner.
I have a question on the cost. Is that that Class 3? That is a separate license? Would someone buy a Class 2 and buy a Class 3, or would Class 3 replace the 2? And what would be the approximate cost?
Well, what happens? It's very similar to the model created for the Class 1 and Class 2. You wouldn't get a Class 1 and a Class 2, or you wouldn't get a Class 1 and a Class 3. But what you would get is a brewer license. So a brewer license is kind of the umbrella license that you would get first. Or if you're an out-of-state brewer, you get the non-resident dealer license. And then, by virtue of that, you would then be able to get, if you chose, and you'd spend an extra $25, I believe, to get the Class 3 license. In addition to that, I failed to mention that a brew pub that is a little similar to the Class 3 because it can manufacture limited amounts and sell at full retail, can transition to a Class 3 brewer if they had an interest in distributing, which they cannot do it as a brew pub. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I'll turn to the impact on wine. The legislation legalizes the manufacture and sale of mead, which is a honey kind of wine. The reason that that's had to be introduced is because mead is made from the fermentation of honey products, I believe, and not from the fermentation of fruit, which is the current definition of wine. So that's an important addition. It expands winery self-distribution privileges to distribute cider and mead to all types of brewers that have the ability to sell such products from their tap rooms. This also permits that crossover, again, to allow the winery to do beer and not lose its craft privileges. It allows a wine, it does do a few other things, though, that winemakers, I don't know how excited they are, but it states that a winemaker may lose its retail privileges if they obtain other craft licenses, which is a little complicated, but I can explain more if there's an interest. And it also increases the license fee for first-class winemakers and first-class wine manufacturers. Those are the primary impacts on wine. Any questions on that? Okay. Spirits impact is very limited. Again, permits that crossover for a craft distiller to be able to make other beer and wine products. It also it increases the license fee for non-resident dealer distillers who have limited privileges. So very limited impact on spirits. This is mostly a beer and wine bill and a distributor and retailer bill. And I'll explain the impact on distribution. Here it's multifaceted because it deals with the beer aspects that we just talked about, but also deals with that subject that you all know only too well, which is cooperative purchasing. So this has a significant impact on distribution. It allows, first, that beer showcase permit. For the first time to my knowledge, distributors can now sell to consumers the beer that's in their inventory if they seek and obtain a beer showcase permit. So that's pretty significant. It authorizes brewers to conduct stocking and rotating and resetting pricing in a limited fashion related to price tags at retailer locations. Now, that was already permitted by virtue of a rule, but this is now enshrined in the statute and applies a few more specifics to stocking and rotating. It expands the self-distribution for manufacturers. I think as we've described, some of the manufacturers have a little bit more self-distribution authority. Certainly the Class 3 brewer, which can manufacture and can retailer, can self-distribute. And also the wineries have a slight increase in self-distribution privilege. The big thing with the bill is the creation and the authorization of cooperative purchasing groups. So this relates to wine and spirits products, wine and spirits distributors who offer quantity discounts to, in general, are required by this legislation to offer those quantity discounts to cooperative purchasing agreements or groups that are formed by way of different specifics that are in the statutes. And one of those specific requirements is that they report the cooperative purchasing group. They report that to the commission, and the commission will be sure to publicized the cooperative purchasing group on our website and through other means. The cooperative purchasing group agreement also has to be the distributor has to be given notice of those cooperative purchasing groups. Also, it impacts retailer to retailer transfers, which would increase the ability of a retailer to purchase or to transfer product to another retailer. But I'll deal with that in the impact that it has on the retail tier. Are there any questions related to the impact on the distribution tier? Any questions related to the cooperative purchasing section? Okay, it's good to have that.
Richard,
Go
I
ahead,
might have
Commissioner.
a question. I should have asked it earlier. I was listening
Sure, go
to
ahead.
you present on the wines and constraints, I guess, around them being able to enter, I guess, into the craft. There were some restrictions about what they could do around the craft. And I'm wondering, why is it that way for them and not that way for the craft brewers into the wine space? Is there a different pipeline from wine to crafting beer? Why is that established?
Yeah, no, I think if I know where you're going with the question, I struggle with that myself, and it primarily deals with, I mean, exceptions created for wineries were done first. They were done primarily, I want to say, back in 2007, 2006 maybe, after the Granholm versus Heald decision in the U.S. Supreme Court. And at the time, wineries were permitted to, I think the biggest privilege they obtained at the time was they were given the ability to have full retailing privileges at a winery if they obtained what's called a winery premises license. Now that's fine. That's in the law, and that's not going anywhere. That's still the case today. The challenge that we faced, however, is when the brewers and the distillers also obtained craft privileges. They were not given those same full retailing privileges. So we were left in a very difficult situation that if a winery also wanted to make beer and they wanted the ability to, let's say, distribute or to sell at retail, the winery has more privileges than the brewery because the brewery is very limited to what they can sell. Same with the distillers. The brewery can only sell what they make at the location. They can also sell through a guest tap, and they can also sell mead and cider, but generally very limited. So what were we to do when a winery and a brewery wanted to combine? And let's say the winery had the full retailing privileges. A brewery can't have those. So what I was getting to earlier, why it's complicated, is that the legislation states that if a winemaker wants to have a craft brewer license, for instance, then it can only sell what it makes at that location, as opposed to having full retailing privileges. They can only sell at retail what they make at that location, which helps to solve that very difficult problem for us. Is that what you were getting at, Commissioner?
That was exactly what I was getting at, and you explained it very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah.
Commissioner O'Connell, the comments that you made on cooperative purchasing agreements and groups, does that answer, do you think, the problems of the independent retailers as much as what we used to do under rule?
I believe it does. I believe what the independents were looking for is an attempt to compete by combining, first of all, so increasing their purchase power. And the best way for them to do that is to form a coalition, a group, to be able to buy more cases. And if they're able to buy more cases, their price per individual case goes way down. So similar to the deals that were provided to large, commonly owned retailers who did get those case discounts, the independents wanted to be able to get those as well. And I think that this legislation certainly accomplishes that.
Good, thank you.
Sure. So again, the impact on retailers is obvious. I think what we just spoke about with the cooperative purchasing groups. The other interesting thing about the legislation is related to the ability for a retailer to transfer to other retailers. You know, right now we have a rule that that allows retailer-to-retailer transfers in limited situations. For instance, if a retailer business closes and we don't want that alcohol to go to waste or to find its way onto the black market, there's no problem if they submit a request for transfer to us for us to be able to permit that transfer. This legislation increases the instances in which a retailer can transfer to other retailers, but also it doesn't require them to ask permission. It allows them to fill out a form that we can provide, and then for them to have it in their records in case, you know, we follow up and do an investigation to see how the alcohol is transferred. So that's one significant difference. And the other significant difference is related to if you find a retailer who has purchased alcohol from another retailer. Typically, it's a violation that we would write up, and we would cite that retailer. And the way the legislation reads, it's interesting because it's still a violation for that to occur if it's not done pursuant to a permissible transfer. But the legislation also says that if we find those instances, that not just once but twice, we have to give the retailer warnings to not do that instead of writing up a violation. So that's pretty significant from an enforcement perspective. So those are the two primary impacts on retailers. Any questions on that?
Rick, Commissioner Gibbons.
Yes.
Is there a time frame for the two violations?
Not currently. It's a really good question. I didn't see any, at least not in my review. I wouldn't mind saying that, and maybe we can work with the organizations to craft, you know, whether it's a 6-month period, 12-month period, whatever it is. That would be something I think we would like to see. Okay, and last but not least, the impact this has on the Liquor Control Commission. And it's pretty significant. I haven't seen this kind of impact in quite a while, but as the director mentioned, I think the biggest impact is that we will be in the future managing the delinquency list, which I think is a good thing. I think presuming that we can make it work with the technology, software, manpower, et cetera, I think is a good thing. It's just a matter of turning it around in 6 months. We're going to have to do it. Obviously, you know, we're going to be involved in the registration, not the registration, but at least the posting of the cooperative purchasing group. And I think I'd like to develop a protocol and a process by which you know, we receive those cooperative purchasing agreements, make sure they're noticed, that everybody, they're posted. But it'd be nice if we also had a procedure by which any changes to those cooperatives could be submitted. There's a 7-day turnaround time effectively. I don't see any issues with us being able to do that, but maybe we can establish a protocol that would help that process along, and without it being a full-out registration or licensing process. I think we need to establish a protocol when we receive these production reports. So as I mentioned earlier briefly, brewers have to submit these annual production reports based on how much they produce to just ensure that the brewers stay within their production capacity. The small brewers, we don't care how much beer the big brewers make. So I think we're going to have to establish an enforcement protocol on monitoring those reports. And we have to create forms and applications. Shank is busy with creating applications for the beer show license and for the Class 3 brewer license. But we also have other forms, transfer forms we have to create and make available. We're going to have to do fee adjustments. Hopefully not that big of a deal. We have to conduct training. I think it's important for us to train the enforcement division and the licensing division and even the legal division. Conduct any public relations we need to make sure everybody else is informed. And then, of course, I think ultimately this piece of legislation, maybe more than others, deserves at least a little bit of rulemaking so we can help explain some of the provisions via rule. So those are the primary impacts of the legislation. We had many other bills that I'm not going to go into now unless any of you have any follow-up questions about those other bills. I would say about a third of those bills made it into that House Bill 2620. Most of the other bills ended in committee and never again, were moved on. It is possible, however, we see them again in the future. So that concludes the legislative report. If you have any questions, then I'm here to answer.
Commissioner Gibbons. Question for you, Rick. I think it was about 2 years ago, the Wine and Spirits representative gave us a report. And of course, one of his complaints was that they were responsible for the delinquency list. And at that time, I think he gave us a number, an estimate as to what it cost him to do that. Do we know how this job or this new assignment that we will impact our budget?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's going to depend. I don't know the answer to that offhand. I do know that there's going to be costs associated with the purchasing software. That is an absolute. That we have to have the ability via the computer, the internet. Ideally, we would establish more of a self-reporting process where, it's more automatic than it currently is, obviously with oversight on our part, not just to leave it to the wolves. But I think if that's going to be the case, we develop a new system, a new software, which quite honestly is not going to happen within 6 months. So in the interim, I don't know. We're going to have to get on that and expend some resources. How much, I don't know, on software. Second would be, to what extent we need additional headcount. I think it's, we absolutely need somebody to manage this. Not only that, the interesting thing is that, and one of the reasons Wine and Spirits, the distributors, one of the reasons they said it helped anyway that they did it, and I don't mean, from my understanding, Jeremy at Wine and Spirits has no problem with us taking this over. But I think one of the advantages they had when they were doing it was, state has say, traditional holidays or weekends that state employees typically are not, engaged in working. So what happens when somebody pays a bill on, let's say, Memorial Day Monday or something like that? Or let's say Veterans Day, maybe a better analogy, when the private sector might be working and the public sector is not. How are we going to be able to handle something like that is an important question. So, and then plus, of course, what happens when the person is sick or on vacation or things like that. Those are all protocols that have to be established and potentially add to our budget in having to hire an additional person. But those exact numbers, I do not know.
And it would seem to me that if you have to have someone on a holiday, that's going to have to be worked into the system so that we do have coverage. We don't just say everything's closed. So, I mean, there's a lot to consider here.
Time and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Rick. I just want to make a note. Dean, could you please note that Commissioner Polito Sanchez has left the meeting at 2:05 p.m. for these minutes?
Understood. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, Chair Berg, this is Commissioner Polito Sanchez. I'm still in the meeting. I'm just battling some stomach problems. So I just wanted to say, if in the event I may leave the meeting. I haven't yet. If you'd like for me to now, I can. But
I was trying to give you the out, Pat, so you don't have to explain.
I just want to give you a heads up. Just sadly, ate some bad fish yesterday. That's sorry.
Well, we just need to document whether you're in or out for our meeting minutes, but no worries. Sorry about that. I thought I was making it easier.
Thank you.
I hope you're okay. All right, moving on. Item number 7, we will continue on with the State of the Industry report. Please welcome Lisa Ellis from the Illinois Grape Growers and Vintners Association.
Lisa and Diane, you should be able to unmute yourselves and speak. Thank you.
I'm unmuted. Thank you. This is Diane.
Lisa Ellis, are you able to speak through your mic? Not showing Lisa as muted. So either she may be away from her computer or her microphone might not be plugged in. There she is. Lisa, do you want to test your mic for me real quick? I'm seeing activity, but I'm not actually hearing anything. I'm sorry.
This is Lisa.
I can hear her. She just sounds very faint.
Yeah, there's a very faint voice I'm hearing.
This is Lisa.
This is Lisa.
Lisa, hang on one second. I'm going to send you my cell phone number and have you call that, and I will merge you in with my microphone. One moment.
Yes, it is. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Lisa, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, I think I need to move. Hold on while I mute my computer. Okay, Lisa Ellis, is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Chairman Byrd, Commissioners, Director McLeod, and Liquor Control Commission staff. We also have on the line with us Diane Hahn, who is one of our directors and the owner of Mackinac Valley Vineyards, and she's going to speak at the conclusion of my comments. We thank you for the opportunity to present today. Illinois Grape Growers and Vintners Alliance was established on June 10th of 1992 as an agricultural membership-based nonprofit organization dedicated to developing Illinois' wine grape industry. I'm still getting a little feedback. I'm going to try to mute that and see if I can make it better. Our formal structure provides a platform to promote the growth of the Illinois grape growing and winemaking industries and the production of high quality grapes and wine. It provides a platform to represent the interests of Illinois grape growers and vintners in legislative and political matters. It provides a forum for the exchange of ideas and to disseminate current information about viticulture and winemaking practices. It enables us to recommend, encourage, and participate in research related to our industry and to increase public awareness of our industry with Illinois consumers. We are organized or governed by a 12-member board of directors and receive regular input from the state's 4 wine growing regions by regional chairs. Research and education activities are largely reliant on state and federal funding, the level of which has varied drastically over the past decade. Commercial wineries and vineyards are eligible for voting membership in our organization. We also have supporting memberships from industry friends and fans. 47.6% of our members are winery and vineyard operations. Vineyard-only operations make up 30.2% of our membership, and winery-only operations represent 22% of our membership base. For purposes of both membership and marketing, we divide the state into 4 geographic areas: the northern, central, south central, and southern Illinois regions. We represent wineries and growers in all regions of the state. The northern and southern regions have more concentrated member groups than we see in central and south central regions, but I will say those areas are growing as well, with new wineries opening up even in the middle of the pandemic. You can find an interactive map that features all of the Illinois wineries on our website at illinoiswine.com. You asked us to address the economic impact of our industry sector in Illinois. And a couple of months ago, I touched briefly on this. The National Institutes of Health released a report in 2018 analyzing drinking trends by state, which was further analyzed by VinePair. And VinePair ranked Illinois 5th in the nation for wine consumption. And I will note that was before the pandemic. According to VinePair, over 35 million gallons of wine were consumed in Illinois during 2018. And that equals about 175 million bottles, or just over 14,600,000 cases, to put things in perspective. On the production side, Illinois is a leading producer of American wine. Our 2019 economic impact study included data from the TTB showing that Illinois is the 18th largest wine producing state, with nearly 1.2 million gallons produced. This equates to 6 million bottles, or about 500,000 cases. Comparing consumption to production, with over 14 million cases consumed and just 500,000 cases produced, we do believe there is significant room to grow the Illinois wine grape industry. As mentioned, we did commission an economic impact study in 2019, which was completed independently by John Dunham and Associates prior to the pandemic. We do plan to update the study next year to get a more accurate reflection of where we stand at the current time. But our 2019 report showed a $5.7 billion total impact to the Illinois economy when factoring in both production and the agritourism value of our industry. $2.9 billion of that impact is direct, with another $1.18 billion attributable to suppliers and $1.55 billion induced. Over 900,000 winery and vineyard visits were made by more than 278,000 tourists prior to the pandemic. Just under 53,000 full-time jobs and $2.15 billion in wages can be attributable to our industry, with $878 million in federal, state, and local business taxes paid. A copy of our full report will be provided to Commission staff to be shared with the commissioners. Obviously, the pandemic caused our progress to come to a screeching halt. Like all other sectors of the economy, IGGVA is working towards recovery alongside our members and industry partners. If not for the support afforded our organization through the Payroll Protection Program, Economic Injury Disaster Loans, and a business interruption grant at the end of last year, I actually might not be sitting here presenting the state of our industry to you today. The same can be said for our individual member companies. So on their behalf, please accept our thanks for the Commission's efforts to work with and support us during these past 15 months. The next item you asked us to touch on was diversity and inclusion initiatives. And I can just say this, across the country, it is widely recognized that it's time for the wine industry to evolve, and we would gladly work with the Commission and other like-minded partners to develop initiatives in support of this important movement. We believe that integrated marketing to reach non-traditional wine consumers can help create a bridge to larger opportunities within the industry. Another item that you asked us to touch on was our major educational events and annual conferences. And like everybody else, all of our educational opportunities have been virtual for the past 15 months. We have an on-call enologist to help our winemakers with immediate problems and also offer a monthly educational training session on Zoom. We established a wine testing program for the first time with the Fermentation Science Institute at SIUC. Our growers have access to weather station data from 3 different Illinois vineyards, all connected to Cornell University's Network for Environment and Weather Applications. And that's giving them some proactive information for the first time in our organizational memory. Additionally, we offered 2 virtual education sessions for Illinois growers at the beginning of the year, and we also offset expenses for them to join a virtual viticulture academy, which has been greatly successful. We do maintain a video library of past educational training for both growers and winemakers. We host an Illinois wine competition annually, and we're one of the very few states in the country to actually organize that event last year during the pandemic. We look forward to our annual educational conference that will be in person in February of 2022. We did not host an in-person conference this year due to the pandemic. On the public-facing side, we offer information about Illinois wineries and vineyards at illinoiswine.com, and we participate in a number of consumer-based events like farmers markets, the Illinois Products Expo, the Illinois and Du Quoin State Fairs, Ottawa Uncorked, which actually just took place about 10 days ago at the tail end of the pandemic restrictions. And then our signature event is called Vintage Illinois, and that happens in September near Starved Rock. Right now, we are working to create an App Store download of our very popular interactive Visit a Winery map that can be found on our website. And our app will feature layers related to gold medal wines, our Rosé Signature Series wines, and wineries that manufacture wine from Illinois grapes. In regard to our policy priorities, I will say it was helpful to hear the Commission's position on House Bill 2620. I would like to go on record as saying that 143-page amendment that increased winery license fees by 60% without addressing our single request related to production and self-distribution limits was a surprise to us. And we do look forward to continued conversations with the Commission on how to interpret those changes for our industry. Our efforts to increase adoption of Illinois wine, we believe, are currently hampered by those limits. An average Illinois winery production levels are generally not sufficient in size to gain substantial attention from distributors. Depending on the market, distributors may represent wineries such as Gallo, Constellation Brands, etc., which all produce millions of cases each year. Illinois wineries can't compete with the power of those brands and the marketing dollars they spend annually. And we understand the need for distributors to focus on brands that have broad market recognition and are therefore easier to promote. The end result that we are left with right now is that Illinois wineries can often be ignored in both shelf space and promotion in favor of those larger national and even international brands. Adequate self-distribution will ensure that Illinois wines are represented appropriately and marketed to their best advantage, and enable us to grow our sales to the point where we can be more profitable for the distributor relationship. The winemaker or owner can describe his or her own wines with accuracy and passion to the store owner or employees in a way that the distributor either doesn't have time for or an interest in doing at this point in time. Furthermore, many Illinois wineries operate on a very slim profit margin, and the amount paid to a distributor is much more detrimental for our smaller wineries than the percentage paid by the multi-billion-dollar wine industry in California, for example. If legislators wish to support Illinois products, increased self-distribution is an important first step for the Illinois wine industry. So passage of what you can be referenced as Senate Bill 1927 is an important first step for our wineries to grow their agritourism businesses and obtain parity with other liquor classes. We have had conversations with our bill sponsor, Senator Rochelle Crow, and other senators that support the wine industry. We've had conversations with WISD and expect to continue those conversations over the summer and hopefully readdress our request in the fall session. Another one of our issues is we do plan to continue to fight any proposed increases to state and federal excise tax. As you may be aware, 2 years ago, a proposed 47% increase to the excise tax levied upon Illinois wine production was unsuccessful. We're thankful for that. At that time, Illinois wine excise tax ranked 13th in the nation at the current rate of $1.39 a gallon. And it should be noted that 0% of those dollars are directed back to our industry for enhancement and promotional purposes. Even though at one point we asked to increase that ourselves so that we could get a portion of it back to grow our industry, as many other states do. And the increase went through, but the funds were not directed to our industry ultimately. Illinois wine excise tax ranks second compared to our neighboring states of Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Kentucky. If the proposed increase had passed 2 years ago, Illinois would have ranked number one. With the exception of Iowa, the average wine excise tax among the remaining 4 neighboring states is only 41 cents. Iowa does currently pay more than Illinois at $1.75 per gallon. The majority of Illinois wine producers make less than 50,000 gallons of wine annually. They are small craft businesses that do not distribute on a national basis. An increase in federal or state excise tax rate would have serious negative impact on profitability and result in potential job losses. Another one of our initiatives is to develop a long-term solution for permanent funding. We appreciate monetary support by way of annual grants from both the Illinois Departments of Agriculture and Tourism, but these have not proven reliable in recent years and has oftentimes put the Alliance in serious jeopardy. We remain actively engaged in securing a more permanent source of funding for our industry, similar to what other state associations have within the United States. We continue an annual battle to remain in the state budget and receive funding for education, training, and marketing activities. And until a long-term solution is established, we'll continue to expand our own fundraising and awareness efforts by establishing new events throughout the state. And we are glad that those special events permits are coming through again. We're excited about the opportunity to interact with our residents. You asked us to touch on challenges related to enforcement, licensing, and industry education. Our members have shared with us that we would appreciate the development of a compliance checklist and developing standards for inspections. Currently, our members believe that department inspectors have great room for personal interpretation, which can make things difficult. Advanced scheduling of an ILCC inspection would also be helpful. I'm told this is available at the TTP level, and it is certainly something that we would appreciate as well. We look forward to improvements within the contact system for commission staff. Currently, we're utilizing phone calls and emails, but if there is anything that can happen when you make your move to increase our ability to connect with staff, we would certainly be appreciative of those efforts. And I think most importantly, we do not understand why House Bill 2620 increased winery fees when none of the benefits came to wineries with the passage of that bill. We do want to go on record as saying that we had no prior review of the 143-page amendment that was filed at the 11th hour. That amendment did increase winery license fees 60% without addressing the one thing that we had asked for. We do look forward to the Commission's review of that amendment and further conversations on the impact with Illinois wineries. We look forward to finding a way to mitigate that license fee increase. We think it's going to be extremely detrimental to the smallest of our members. In the short term, as far as where we see our sector, we're obviously focused on pandemic recovery. We do plan to complete a post-pandemic economic impact report next year, and that should help us prioritize areas that need industry attention. And we do believe with improvements to our self-distribution dilemma, we see Illinois wineries becoming a more viable customer for Illinois distributors, obtaining increased shelf space and biting into the 14 million case advantage non-Illinois wine producers have with wine consumption in the state of Illinois. In closing, I do apologize again for the technical difficulties in making this address to the Commission. We very much look forward to meeting and working with Director McLeod. And at this point in time, I would like to introduce Diane Hahn, who is an IGGVA board member and owner of Mackinac Valley Vineyard, to give you a few statements related to her experience this past year.
Lisa, thank you. This is Diane Hahn, the owner of Mackinac Valley Vineyard and Winery. I'd like to thank Chairman Berg, the members of the ILCC commissioners, and also the staff members that are present on the meeting. And thank you for this time to address all of you. And first of all, I'd like to start with thanking you as a winery owner during 2020, which was very challenging, that you did do a good job keeping us informed and sending out emails of different changes to things and how we could respond. And that was very appreciated. And we worked closely with our liquor commissioner and our health department to adhere to what was going on for everyone's safety. But I just want to thank you, staff members, for your work on that. Our winery, my late husband, Paul Hahn, started planting grapes on our farm in the late 90s, 97 and 98. And he opened to the public in 2003 as an Illinois winery. And so he had served as a past president of the IGGVA, actually during the legislation that took place that allowed us any self-distribution, as was mentioned earlier, that it occurred in, I think it was 2007 when Governor Blagojevich was in office. And we appreciated very much getting that ability then and still appreciate it. During 2020 and the pandemic, my sales on premise decreased 52%. So our revenues were down 52%. And really without the PPP loans and the EIDL help, probably wouldn't be here. Very difficult times indeed, and we are very much working on pandemic recovery at our business, as are many, many small business owners in all sectors of our economy. We have 3 full-time people at my business, myself and 2 of my 6 children work here, managing the vineyard and winery and different phases of our business. One of our biggest hits that we do, being a small Illinois winery, we do multiple things. So not only having a wine tasting room, but we also do weddings and events, and those were very sharply curtailed during 2020. And so we're seeing a recovery and a lot of public support, which we are very grateful for in our local area. We are blessed in the area that we serve. We do serve a very, I think, diverse clientele. And we tried to have events that would draw people from all cultures and walks of life in our area to just various things that we do, and try to be a very inclusive and family-friendly place for people to come and enjoy our premises. Some things that we could use help with, and Lisa stated them aptly in her section, really just working on maybe some of the things in the House bill that was recently passed where we were not notified in a timely manner to some of the changes, and we would like maybe some help with the licensing fees not being increased for wineries, and also not increasing the, I know that's not on the table now, but the increase in our gallon limits, the tax on the gallons that we produce. And I think just any help economically the state could give for encouraging people in our state and outside of our state to visit and utilize our winery premises and visit our state to see our wineries and our other tourist attractions that we have. Our surrounding states, Missouri and Michigan most notably, and do a very large amount of tourism geared toward winery visiting and tasting room visits. And so that would be very helpful. And just again, increasing the ability of our industry. We work very hard to self-fund the industry and to provide funds for Lisa as our director to be in Springfield and be active with your group, but it would also, we just would like to increase that and just be more active and included in decisions that affect our industry and also us as a winery and a small business here in Illinois. And anyway, and again, I would just like to thank you for your hard work during the pandemic. It was appreciated.
Well, thank you. Does the board have any comments or questions? Diane, Ms. Hahn?
Yes.
And Lisa, thank you very much for letting us know your struggles during the pandemic and your diversity inclusion. Also, we appreciate that on behalf of the board. I feel that I hope that you guys have a good growing season, and the way things are going with some droughts and stuff, I'm always concerned about that as well for you. We wish you all the best as far as the season goes, in addition to all the other aspects of the wine fees being increased.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you both. All right. Moving on, item number 8, public comment. Dean, is there any comments by telephone, email, or written at this time? And if there are, would you unmute the commenters, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have Jeremy Krugnier from the Wine and Spirits Distributors of Illinois, who has requested to speak.
Great, thanks.
Can you hear me?
Jason's unmuting him in just a moment.
I'm gonna leave the event.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. I look forward to seeing you all in person soon. For the record, my name is Jeremy Krugnier, and I'm the Executive Director and General Counsel for the Wine and Spirits Distributors of Illinois. I want to just take a couple minutes to address the record about cooperative purchasing agreements in response to testimony provided at last month's hearing. WSDI represents more than 60 wine and spirits distributors throughout the state. And as far as I have been able to determine, only one of those more than 60 members has done any business with the co-ops in the past decade. So I just wanted to sort of set stage on how pervasive they were in the past. When the concept of formalizing the co-ops was introduced in 2019, many of my members, both large and small, pushed back on the regulatory oversight of their pricing models, which vary widely. There are legitimate business reasons why one, a commonly owned chain could negotiate better pricing deals from a distributor, or two, that a distributor would want to offer better pricing to a commonly owned chain versus an independent store. And with those concerns in mind, WSDI initially opposed the concept of being forced to work with the co-ops, but that changed a year ago when we entered into negotiations with the Illinois Retail Merchants Association about codifying the concepts of co-ops. And throughout the spring, at no point was WSDI in opposition to the concept of co-ops, but there were some common sense requirements that are imposed on commonly owned chains. And so we thought that those requirements should also be included on the co-ops. And some of those were included in the final package, and that led to 2620 passing during the last week of session, and we think it strikes a reasonable balance. There are a lot of parts of the bill, as Rick went through, but there are two main provisions that I wanted to note. One, that co-ops be subjected to the same credit requirements as commonly owned chains, and that was included. And two, that the same of value prohibitions that apply to a retailer also apply to the cooperative agents. And those were both included, and I think are very helpful, both from a regulatory aspect and from a business perspective. With respect to the cooperative agents, the General Assembly agreed that cooperative agents should not be permitted to accept anything of value from manufacturers and distributors in the same way that retailers are prohibited from accepting those payments. The cooperative agents stand in the shoes of the retailer and therefore are restricted from any of the pay-to-play activities in the same way as a retail license. Because those provisions were included, WSDI was in support of the legislation, and we look forward to working with the Commission and our retail customers to implement the entire package. Quickly in response to Commissioner Gibbons' question about the delinquency list, WSDI had no problem maintaining the list. We were okay giving it up, but I just want to note that that was a request of the retailers, not a request of ours. Just want to say thanks for your time today, and again, look forward to seeing you back in person later this summer.
Thank you, Jeremy. Dean, is there anyone else?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Item number 9, does any board member have any comments today? Commissioner Smith Cooper.
None. Thank you.
Commissioner Gibbons. Tom, are you there?
Yes, no, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner O'Connell?
No, I'm sorry. I was having trouble with my mute button here.
No problem. Commissioner Powell, any comments?
None today, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. And Commissioner Polito Sanchez has excused herself from the call. Thank you so much. We'll move on to item number 10, executive session. At this time, the commission will adjourn to executive session. The session is closed to the public. The commission is entering executive session for the purpose of discussing testimony and evidence presented in the hearing. This is authorized pursuant to Section 2C, Sections 1 and 4 of the Open Meetings Act. Members of the public will no longer be able to see and hear the meeting, although the meeting will not end. Upon conclusion of the executive session, the commission will return to the regular meeting, which is open to the public. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been properly moved and seconded. Dean, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Stan Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes, motion carries. We will adjourn executive session. All right, this is Chair Berg. Secretary Agiris, could you please give us a roll call for back to regular session?
Commissioner Stan Cooper,
Here.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Here.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Here.
Commissioner Powell,
Here.
and Chair Berg.
Here. Thank you very much. In the case of 20 APP 11, Knob versus Carbondale petition for rehearing, do I have a motion to deny a rehearing?
So moved.
Second. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you so much. Secretary Argiers, could you call the roll on the denial?
Commissioner Stan Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes. Motion carries. In the matter of 20 APP 16, Austin New versus Carbondale, do I have a motion to deny the rehearing?
So moved.
Second, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. Motion carries. Secretary Juris, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Spain Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes. Motion carries. In the matter of 20 APP 23, New versus Carbondale, do I have a motion to deny petition for rehearing?
So moved by
So
Commissioner
moved.
O'Connell.
Thank you and thank you. Secretary Juris, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Span Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes. Motion carries. And the last, in the matter 19, APP 14, the Hub Sports Bar versus the City of Champaign. Wait, is it Champaign? Glasses on, hold on.
I'd like to make a motion to affirm the city, but admonish the city for issuance and renewal of the incorrect license.
Commissioner Gibbons will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Secretary Juris, please call the roll.
Commissioner Span Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes, motion carries. And the last one, 19, APP 18, John Sims.
Commissioner Powell, I move that we affirm the city's decision.
Commissioner Span Cooper, I second.
Very good. Thank you both. Secretary Juris, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Span Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes, motion carries. Item 12, adjournment. I have a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Illinois Liquor Control Commission.
Commissioner Powell moves.
Powell seconds.
Thank you, gentlemen. Secretary Juris, please call the roll.
Commissioner Span Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes, motion carries. We are adjourned. Our next meeting will
Thank you.
be each other face-to-face, July 14, 2020. Daily Plaza,
Do we know where? Oh, Daily Plaza?
second floor. It's our new home. It may look a little different.
Daily.
All right.
Okay.
Well, have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye-bye.